You know, folks always say, follow your passion. But Buddha didn't just follow his passion, he followed suffering until it had nowhere left to hide. Let me take you back, way back, to the city of Sravasti, where this particular story begins. The request. One bright morning, while the Buddha was staying at the famous Jetavana Grove, a group of monks approached Venerable Ananda, Buddha's cousin and spiritual wingman. "Brother Ananda," they said, "it has been quite a while since we've heard the Blessed One give a talk. Do you think, maybe, we could catch one of his Dhamma downloads sometime soon?" Ananda, ever gracious, smiled and replied, "If you're seeking wisdom, then seek it where it flows. Head over to the hermitage of the Brahmin Ramyaka. You just might find the Buddha there. A walk to stillness." Meanwhile, the Buddha had returned from his daily alms round in Sravasti, his begging bowl lighter but his heart always full. After lunch, he turned to Ananda and said, "Ananda, let's take a stroll to the Eastern Park. I'd like to spend the afternoon there." As usual, Ananda didn't need to be asked twice. "Yes, Bhante," he responded, and off they went. Once they arrived, the Buddha sat in stillness beneath a tree, entering deep meditative absorption. Imagine stillness so complete it could make a mountain seem jittery. That was the vibe. As evening approached, the Buddha emerged from meditation and instructed Ananda to prepare water for a bath. Even Buddhas need a rinse now and then. While he dried himself, Ananda made a suggestion. "Bhante, the hermitage of Ramyaka is nearby. The setting is serene, the landscape like a painting. Would you care to visit?" The Buddha nodded in noble silence. Arrival at the ashram. When they reached the hermitage, the Buddha found a group of monks deep in discussion, heads bowed, words flowing like a quiet river. Rather than interrupt, the Buddha stood silently at the door. When the monks finished, he knocked, not with impatience, but with a gentle ahem that carried the weight of 1,000 lifetimes. The monks opened the door and offered him a seat. He sat down gracefully and asked, "What was your discussion about, monks?" They answered, "Venerable Sir, we were speaking about you. We were discussing your teachings." The Buddha nodded and said, "Good. It is fitting for noble sons who have gone forth from home out of faith to engage in Dhamma discussion. If not that, then sit in noble silence. But don't talk about the weather, your favorite lentil soup, or whether mangoes are better than bananas." Okay, maybe he didn't say that last part, but you get the idea. The two searches. Then the Buddha gave one of his most piercing insights. "There are two kinds of searches in this world," he began. "One is noble, the other is ignoble. The ignoble search? That's when you go looking for comfort in things that are themselves subject to decay. Children, spouses, servants, wealth, and all the bells and whistles of worldly pleasure. Think about it. If you're drowning, does it make sense to grab onto someone else who's drowning too? Yet that's what most people do. They chase after temporary things with their temporary lives, and when those things fall apart, as they always do, they ask, why me? But the noble search is different. It begins when a person, surrounded by birth, aging, sickness, and death, says, "Isn't there something beyond all this? Something unshakable, untouched by sorrow? A kind of peace that doesn't come with a price tag?" That was my search. Prince to renunciate. Before I awakened, I too was caught up in worldly pursuits. I had wealth, pleasure, family. I had royal drip, golden sandals, elephant rides, the whole 9 yards. But deep down I realized, everything I loved would fade, everything I owned would rust, everything I clung to was burning quietly from the inside. So I made a decision. Even though my parents wept, even though my young wife held our newborn son in her arms, I left. I cut my hair, put on robes, and walked into the unknown. Not because I was fearless, but because fear of the same old suffering finally outweighed the fear of change. Seeking the way, Buddha described how he studied under great teachers, Arada Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputta, spiritual heavyweights of the time. He mastered their teachings, went deep into formless meditations, and earned their respect. They told me, "You know what we know. We're equals." But I wasn't satisfied. I could see it. This wasn't the end. There was still craving, still restlessness, still me at the center. So he moved on. He kept walking, kept searching, until he found himself beside the Nairanjana River, beneath a tree, surrounded by nature's cathedral. There, he sat down. "There," he said, "I turned the search inward, not outward. And there I finally saw the end of birth, aging, sickness, and death. The five senses and the hunter's trap." Then Buddha turned to the monks with an unforgettable metaphor. "The world is full of shiny things, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and we chase them like deer running straight into the hunter's trap. Why? Because they feel good until they don't. But the wise one sees them for what they are: bait." He steps away, like a deer that slips past the trap and disappears into the forest. That's how the meditative path works. First, you pull away from the senses. You find joy not in the world, but in stillness. You reach the first jhana, then the second, the third, the fourth. And in that stillness, more real than anything you've ever touched, you see the truth. You wake up. And when you do, Mara, the tempter, the bringer of illusion, can no longer find you. You're off the grid, off the map, untraceable. Congratulations, you've ghosted Samsara. Final words. The monks listened in rapt attention. Some smiled, some wept. Some, well, you could tell they were already halfway to jhana. And the Buddha, seeing their hearts open, concluded, "Let this be your path. Not one of clinging and craving, but one of seeing, knowing, and letting go." Takeaway, with a smile: you don't need a mansion to find peace. You just need to stop renting space in Mara's hotel. So, my friend, before you chase that next shiny thing, pause. Ask yourself, is this a noble search, or am I just decorating my cage? And remember, the Buddha didn't awaken by swiping through self-help reels or ordering enlightenment on Amazon Prime. He sat, he breathed, he let go. Maybe you can too.